Maxim, obviously this is, Fox 43 News, local book club. I was just wondering, like, can you tell us a little bit about like your connection to Pennsylvania, whether you grew up here, whether you moved here, that sort of thing? 'Cause we're really about like the local authors, Pennsylvania authors, that sort of thing. So we just wanted to touch on that connection first.
Yeah, sure. I was born in Columbia County, a town called Berwick, Pennsylvania, and Berwick is pretty close to the coal region, and there was always a lot of superstition and paranormal stories there. But Berwick is the final resting place of Nick Adams, who was popular in the '60s. He had a TV show called The Rebel, and Nick Adams was one of the cursed actors who was on the motion picture Rebel Without a Cause. There were a whole bunch of people. I mean, like infamous people like James Dean, Sal Mineo, Nick Adams, and Natalie Wood, who all died mysterious deaths, and they were all connected with Rebel Without a Cause. So Nicholas Adamczak is buried there in Berwick, and I happen to know his mother. His mother lived next to me in Berwick, so we talked about Nick. And so Nick Adams is in my book, Coal Region HooDoo. But there's a number of things. I have a chapter on Dr. Frederick Santee, who was a white witch. He was the high priest for the Coven of the Cata. Really interesting individual, and I'm scheduled to do a presentation next year at the Esoteric Conference in Wilkes-Barre on Dr. Frederick Santee. I mean, just an amazing 20th century, progressive thinker. And then the other one, the one that was also born in Berwick, was Richard Sharp Shaver. And I bet very few of your listeners ever heard of Richard, but he was infamous in the archives of ufology. And Richard Sharp Shaver was born in Berwick in 1907. And in the '40s, he claimed that he was captured by these evil robots and held prisoner. And this was in the '40s, and people believed him. But the follow-up to that was the FBI investigated Richard Sharp Shaver. They claimed that he triggered the UFO hysteria that we had in 1947. They blamed this Berwick guy for that. So anyway, I was born in a place, Berwick, Pennsylvania, that just is just like steeped in so much folklore and superstition. It's just like, brought over by a lot of the immigrants who came over to work in the coal mine. So that's pretty much my background.
Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit about how like you came to be an author? Was that something you always wanted to do? Was it just like a happy accident? If you also want to talk a little bit about, like, you mentioned rock journalist and paranormal, so if you want to talk a little bit about like how you made that shift, that sort of thing.
Um, I've been writing since I was, I think, maybe 5 years old. I used to draw comic books, and my brother was always he would be captured by the evil creatures and all this, and I would draw, comic books and write things like that. And then, as far as the journey from being a rock journalist, I mean, rock and roll is always my passion. I believe that, music is just so important from a sociological standpoint. Did so much for so many movements, whether it was anti-Vietnam, civil rights, gay rights, Mother Earth, Greenpeace, you name it. I mean, music has always been there to motivate us. And songs like We Shall Overcome and Blowing in the Wind. So it gave us hope and inspiration. And so anyway, I wrote a number of books wearing my hat as a rock journalist. But I was working on a book. I was trying to write a rock mythology connecting the song Timothy, the 1971 song Timothy, with the 1963 Shepton mining disaster. Both the song Timothy and the Shepton mining disaster had one thing in common, and that is that 3 men went down into the mine and only 2 returned. And in both cases, there were allegations of cannibalism. So as I was writing this rock mythology, a rock and roll book, I discovered that Shepton, which in Shepton was a little patch town located just outside of Hazleton, Pennsylvania. But I discovered that Shepton had a whole lot of paranormal elements. For example, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, and afterlife experience. Of all of the mining disasters that I've ever read about, especially in the coal region and also in Western Pennsylvania, nothing comes close to Shepton. Shepton just burns the house down. I mean, just blows it up as far as paranormal activity. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. The miners, one of them was a devout Roman Catholic. The other one was an atheist, had no belief either way. But those miners believed that they saw the spirit, the apparition of Pope John the 23rd, who was in the mine for those 2 weeks that they were underground. Pope John the 23rd had died in June. Shepton took place in August. So it was an example of life after death. In all three of the purported miracles that Pope John the 23rd performed, all three of them happened after he had died. So, I have spoken with Roman Catholic nuns and priests and brothers about this, and I think most or many Roman Catholics believe that this may be viewed in terms of a miracle. And the Shepton miners believe that they were saved by Pope John the 23rd and that it was indeed a miracle.
Very cool. And in that vein, can you tell us a little bit about like the sort of research that you had to do for this book, where it came from? Like, was it interviews? Was it, internet books, that sort of thing?
All of that sort of thing. In Coal Region HooDoo has something like over 400 references to books, magazines, internet sources, and also personal interviews. So like I said, with Nick Adams, I had interviewed his mother, of information from her, knew Dr. Santee, the White Witch, was good friends with Ed and Lorraine Warren. And Ed and Lorraine Warren were responsible for the Conjuring universe. And the Conjuring 1, Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, Annabelle Comes Home. I mean, there's 9 motion pictures based on the career of Ed and Lorraine Warren that brought in $2.1 billion. It's the most successful horror franchise after Godzilla. But anyway, the Warrens were in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. They were in 1988, they were embarking on a 15-city tour to promote their book, The Haunted. And so I got permission to go there and interview them. I took some awesome pictures. I hung out with them. I would call them up. They were Roman Catholic demonologists that lived in Connecticut. And I would call them up and ask them questions about the Schmurl haunting, which was in West Pittston. That was this was our Amityville, in northeastern Pennsylvania. But I became good friends with Ed and Lorraine Warren. I would call them up, and Lorraine had a pet rooster, so you could hear the pet rooster in the background. And but they were very kind and just altruistic people, and just not pretentious. And they were famous. I mean, they were the most famous demonologists ever. And again, with this realm on this side of the street, you have. I always use the rule of 90. Not 100%, but 90. Like 30% of the people believe that this actually happened. Like with the Warrens, 30% believe it was a hoax, and 30% are sort of on the bias. They're on the fence. They could care either way, or they need to be. They're like the undecided or the independent voters. They need to be swayed. But I sort of made the transition from a rock journalist to a paranormal researcher and author, and the doors just open. I mean, for example, your interview. I mean, this just happened. I mean, like, I just can't believe how wonderful this is. How hospitable the communities have been. I mean, accepting my books and inviting me to do presentations and all that. It's just a wonderful feeling as an author. And a lot of us, we struggle to find an audience. We struggle to find that demographic. But I've been very fortunate, and I'm very, I have a lot of gratitude for what's happening right now. I mean, this is really the best time of my life. I just had another book. I don't know if you could see this, but I just had this published like 6 days ago. This is, can you see that, or is that backwards? You can see it?
No, yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, it's called Flying Saucer Esoteric, The Altered States of UFOlogy. So it's my follow-up to the Coal Region HooDoo. And my publisher, Beyond the Fray, thinks it's going to really make some noise. It's just the right time. I mean, the world is ready for a book about flying saucers. And I use that term. I use the term, I know it's UAP, but I use the term flying saucer just because everybody knows what that is. So that book just came out like 6 days ago. I'm really psyched, about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah,
I had
thanks.
no idea that you had that coming out, so
Yeah,
I'm very
oh,
excited to hear about that. I wanted to ask you about because this was one of the things that sort of interested me reading this book because I've said this to Allie, like I personally am not usually a horror fan. Like it just scares me. That's all, you know, like it
sure,
just
yeah.
scares me. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about like your own fascination with horror and the paranormal and that sort of thing, and also like why the general public finds it so interesting because that was part of your book that I really enjoyed sort of hearing that explanation.
Yeah, thanks. In the beginning, in my introduction, I talk how, I'm a baby boomer. Us baby boomers were born between, let's say, 1946 to 1964. So we were raised on things like Twilight Zone and Outer Limits. And I guess X-Files came later, but and all of the classic black and white horror movies, I mean, they were schlocky, they had cheap, special effects, but we love them even today. I mean, but we were raised on that. So we knew about aliens and vampires and werewolves and all of that. I mean, that we were, that was just part of our, I guess, culture or pop culture. And for example, the Edgar Allan Poe, just before the Beatles hit in the 60s, the Edgar Allan Poe phenomenon with American International films with Vincent Price were huge. I mean, there was Poe mania that gripped the United States before Beatlemania. And a good example of this was uh, the House of Usher. What was it? The Curse of the House of Usher. And that was a movie that was one of the top 10 movies of, I think it was 1960, maybe 1962, one of the top 10. It was a mainstream movie. I mean, everybody went to see that. When before that, only certain demographic groups would go to horror movies like that. Well, this sort of broke the trend, and it wasn't real scary. It was just suspenseful and gothic. I mean, it was just really goth, a goth presentation. But so that was something that I think a lot of us, a lot of my fellow baby boomers were raised on. So we have an appetite for things like that, whether it's ufology or demonology, the monsters and all of that stuff. And I mean, God, we were raised on it. We talked about it. We loved it. And so I think that fascination, that affinity led to my books. And again, I've had 3 books now written about the paranormal, and I'm really enjoying this ride. I've been invited to 2 Bigfoot expos as a guest speaker. And again, you probably know more about Bigfoot than I do, but I don't, but anyway, it's been really, really nice, and I've been well received. And this is uh, uh, great to talk about it. And for your listeners, in Coal Region HooDoo, I have 2 chapters on Bigfoot. There it is. But the reason for that is Pennsylvania ranks number 3 after Washington State and California as far as Bigfoot sightings. So they're all over the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And a lot of them are out in Western Pennsylvania, a place called Chestnut Ridge, which is a 100-mile stretch southwest of Pittsburgh that goes down to West Virginia, and counties like Fayette, Westmoreland, Indiana, where they're seeing a lot of Bigfoot sightings. And it's just, I mean, I don't know, don't ask me. I mean, they're just regular people like me and you are seeing these things. And, so I don't know what that means. I mean, something's going on. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I have some theories about what Bigfoot and UFOs are, beyond being flesh and blood creatures. And I talk about that in Coal Region HooDoo.
And have you like and whether it was for your interviews or anything like that, have you visited any of these sites, like the site of the Shepton disaster, the site of the Philadelphia experiment, anything like that?
Yeah, I have. A lot of the book is personal to me. With the Philadelphia experiment, I drove up to Derry, New Hampshire, and Fred Tracy was a former sailor uh, during World War II who had information, personal information about the Philadelphia experiment. So I went up there and interviewed him over a weekend, kept in touch with him, and he believed that the Philadelphia experiment, which, by the way, 2023 is the 80-year anniversary of the Philadelphia experiment. which was a World War II experiment that allegedly went wrong, where a ship was teleported from Philadelphia to Norfolk, Virginia, and back. And it sounds wild, it sounds bizarre, but keep in mind that during World War II, we were doing a whole lot of things that were over the top. The Manhattan experiment, Enrico Fermi's experiments with plutonium rods underneath the University of Chicago and underneath the gymnasium in a basement. I mean, just a whole lot of things. LSD was coming about, and we know definitely that the CIA used LSD for mind control experiments. And with the Philadelphia experiment, some of the guys like Al Bielak claimed that that there was time travel, that he ended up on Montauk on Long Island. And you've probably seen Strange, the Netflix Strange, I forget.
Stranger Things?
Stranger Things, thank you. Yeah, I can never remember it. Stranger Things, but Stranger Things is supposed to be based on the Montauk Project, which was about time control and or time travel and mind control and all these crazy things. Now, we know that the CIA was involved in mind control experiments, so it stands to reason that maybe they had a place where a lot of these experimentations would take place. So why not Montauk on Long Island? Just like, we think that maybe there were, some people believe that there were crashed saucers and extraterrestrials in Roswell or outside of Roswell. So, I mean, who knows? But, there's a lot of conjecture and speculation. But the Philadelphia experiment just seems to get bigger and bigger. And then after they stopped experimenting, there, it looks like maybe that project ended up in Long Island and Montauk. I mean, that's the story. So I don't know, but yeah, Fred Tracy was the one guy that I interviewed. I traveled to Shepton numerous times, met a lot of people there from Shepton, Oneida, Centralia, the cursed city. I've been there a million times, and and you do that. You do the research, you write it down, and then you talk to people that are close to the source to validate your narrative. And I think I was able to do that in Coal Region HooDoo. And I want to do for the the Pennsylvania supernatural what Stephen King did for the state of Maine. I want to talk about our stuff. And even though you're so close to Lancaster, I contend that there's a lot more to the paranormal in our state than Lancaster and hex signs and white witches. There's a whole lot more. And I talk about that in Coal Region HooDoo. So, most of the paranormal books are written about Lancaster or Gettysburg. And I was frustrated. I thought, wait a second. I mean, we have our own story to tell. And I think that, I mean, just from the feedback I've received from Coal Region HooDoo, I think that, I think I got it right. And I'm really, pleased with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously there's always going to be people who don't believe. So I was just wondering if you had any sort of, I don't know if response is the right word, but just like, there's always people that argue like, oh, well, science, this isn't scientifically possible. Like, what do you think about the line, I guess, between the science and the paranormal?
Yeah, I think that I think they're the same. I think that the paranormal is part of the scientific realm, but we may not have a doctrine or a theory to explain it. Like, for example, when you see an apple drop, it's scientifically it's cause and effect. The effect is we see the apple drop. The cause is Newton's theory of motion, of gravity. So that one's easy. But when you see lights in the sky, when you see anomalies, when you see objects that are flying that seem to be controlled, not meteorites or shooting stars, we don't know what they are. And even today, the Pentagon says that 3% of the things that we see, they can't explain. They're either ours, they're a foreign government, or belong to a foreign government, or they're extraterrestrial. So take your pick. We don't know. I think, in Flying Saucer Esoteric, I talk about like the U-2 bomber and the Blackbird. Skyhook, just a Project Mogul. There were a lot of government experiments that people mistook for flying saucers. And then the government kept that quiet, and then just little by little started to admit some of the things. But we don't know what kind of stealth technology we have there. I mean, we've been pretty good. I mean, for not being able to keep secrets, we've really been able to keep secrets about stealth technology. I think we're doing a pretty good job with that. So, but yes, I interviewed a whole lot of people to bring some to validate what I have in Coal Region HooDoo.
Definitely. And I saw at one point that Coal Region HooDoo, I think, tell me if I'm making this up, but I think I saw on your website or something that Coal Region HooDoo was sort of born out of like the book that you wrote about Shepton itself, just because you had like so much extra material, basically. Um, so did that material like come from your interviews, come from like, I guess, was this a planned book, or did it just sort of like organically come about because you had all of this extra information?
Yeah, that's a perfect word. Yeah, it was. I think it came about organically with Shepton, the Shepton mythology. I found a demographic. I found a whole bunch of people that were really, really interested in my book. So anyway, but Shepton really did open up the doors. And an example, after Shepton came out, I was invited to a paranormal conference in Baltimore, and I was able to go and do a PowerPoint about the Shepton mythology. And then there was a 90-minute interview on Mysterious Universe from Australia about my book. So I mean, just doors opened up without. I mean, it just happened, and that's kind of organic or meant to be. Call it what you will, but it's nice when that happens. And I've been meeting so many wonderful people, and we trade theories, and it's nice to be in that kind of position.
Yeah, definitely. So I see that we only have 10 minutes left, so I'm going to start winding down a little bit. But I think I just have two questions left, and then we can see if Allie has anything else. But I wanted to ask if you had any advice for like aspiring authors or maybe people who are interested in the paranormal, want to write about it, that sort of thing. Like, and just, what would you tell them?
Yeah, look for the truth, write about the truth. And there's a way. What I did with Coal Region HooDoo, I tried to take the spiritual and the paranormal and bring them closer together to the scientific, because I view myself as a scientist, as an academic, and trying to find the truth. And what we do, I mean, the best we can do, a lot of it is semantics, a lot of it is vocabulary, but a lot of it is taking some of these anomalies and putting them into the correct category or genre. And J. Allen Hynek did that, Jacques Vallée did that, John Keel did that. And I know in Coal Region HooDoo, a couple of people compared me to John Keel and Jacques Vallée, who were leading paranormal researchers and ufologists. And I mean, just that made me feel so good, because that's what I want to do for our region. And I want to do it in an intellectual, in an intelligent manner, well researched and well written manner. And Coal Region HooDoo is just, I mean, I just love the book, and I've had so many nice compliments about it. We've been as high as number 14 on Amazon's top 100, which is really pretty cool. But for those of your readers out there, your listeners who are interested in writing, just write every day, and write a couple of paragraphs and make them the best paragraphs ever, and just keep on going from there. And and if the paranormal speaks to you like it does to me, then write about that, because it's just so fascinating, and there's just so many different areas, so many aspects of it. And and I think where people that are interested in the paranormal, they're not viewed as oddballs or kooks. I think that we're allowed to go and share our ideas and our beliefs, without fear of people making fun of us. And the Pentagon's been a good example of that. They want people to come forward. If you've seen things, you can come forward and report this without fear of ridicule. And this is sort of, there's sort of like a new climate of, I don't know, maybe transparency. I mean, I'm hoping. I mean, it sounds good, but I think that that's what the Pentagon and the government's trying to do right now. So, um, but yeah, if if any of your listeners are interested in becoming authors, I mean, just write every day, and then read as much as you can. I mean, that's just so important. So
I think almost every single one of our authors that we've talked to has said that, so that's awesome. It must be good advice.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
and then my
It's
last question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna say my last question then is I was just gonna ask if you had anything else in the works, anything planning to come out, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I used to write. I was a drug and alcohol counselor in my real life. I was my day job. I was in charge of a drug and alcohol program, and I was fascinated by new drugs, emerging drugs of abuse, fentanyl, carfentanil, bath salts. Newer versions of LSD and ecstasy, all of that. And I started to write about that in several magazines. And I'm currently working on a manuscript called Celebrity Blood Voyeurism, and it's society's unhealthy fixation on celebrities that crash and burn, whether it's Amy Winehouse or Kurt Cobain or Elvis or Jim Morrison. It doesn't matter. It's Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, the story's all the same. These folks couldn't deal with fame, and they did a lot of substances, and they ended up dead. And it's sad. It's a sad uh, narrative, but it's happened to so many people. And I think the book that I'm working on is more of a cautionary tale. So I coined the term celebrity blood voyeurism, and we'll see what when that comes out. So,
Sounds very cool. I'm excited to read it.
well, thank you.
Yeah. Allie, did you have anything else that you wanted to ask?
Think we're looking good. I want to stop recording here unless there's anything else that you want to add, Maxim. We do have 4 minutes. So any thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to just tell the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to feel some sort of pride in, the paranormal and supernatural aspects of Pennsylvania. I mean, we have as much stuff here, as many stories as does the state of Maine, as does the Bayou down in Louisiana. I mean, I don't care where you go. I mean, we probably have more, but these are stories that have been untold. And I'm hoping that through, books like the Shepton mythology and Coal Region HooDoo, that I could go and tell our story, to the world. So, that's sort of what I'm trying to do. Maybe like trying to be like an ambassador of our area, but in a really good scientific way. And, I mean, nobody's really doing that. I think to the extent that, say, Coal Region HooDoo has done, or the Shepton book. So, I'm just, sort of honored to be in this position and to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a lot of great stories. It was just we just talked about the Alba Twitch over the
Yeah, sure.
weekend,
Yeah.
things like that. You
Yeah.
just mentioned Follow the Ushers. That was just brought back to Netflix. I don't know if you saw that too. So
Yeah.
it's spooky season, man. This is your time.
Yeah.
So thank you so
Yeah.
much for everything.
Yeah, and that apple witch, I mean, that's in your backyard. That was the apple snatcher or the apple snitcher, Pennsylvania Dutch stuff. But I mean, that's just a huge cryptid legend that you have in your backyard. So they call it the little Bigfoot.
Yeah. And I'm going to stop recording here right now.